malo ko pati gba mi ngano yaji nyimo me aye yo me ka bi o me saminya ka yo gbegbe.
Because they are the ones who are making the decisions in workplaces, then sex becomes a tool for getting women into employment.
Dama ayimmala je haya yidan ye kakanyim pagba mala amna yidan ma yin to gobro dirle to mpo pamaka do mi gbaka to sa yiza han ko kwale zambina ye nya shin tanzantin ya.
You know, they make you lose your self-worth, and emotionally it affects you. You are violated emotionally. You have no peace of mind, and so psychologically, sometimes you even be talking as you are walking about. They are all forms of violence.
Some of the fallouts are psychological disorders we are aware of, anxiety disorders, mood disorders like depression, which could lead to attempts at suicide, damaged or lowered, compromised self-esteem. That is, the person really has no meaningful sense of self-worth.
The victims actually end up physically damaged for life, or some of them end up mentally affected.
A patient is raped and you have to make a whole lot of repairs to her genital aspect to the extent that it might even be difficult for her to have successful sexual relationship, and as such she might be rendered infertile as a result of that.
Because you've been continuously violated, you tend to lower your estimation of yourself. Some people learn to withdraw and they seek refuge in various substances to maybe dampen or dull the pain of the violation they go through. So you can have a victim who's having difficulty at school, or somebody who's even having difficulty at work or in their work. We have lots of women who, for example, engage in petty trading but cannot make up their accounts. They don't see where the money goes, and this leads to further violence.
Maintenance of children or maintenance of a spouse, estate matters and matrimonial causes.
Like hypertension, diabetes, even AIDS, HIV/AIDS, and TB, cancer. These are the long-term diseases.
So what starts as a psychological condition can turn into a physical condition, such as an ulcer, such as hypertension, and so on and so forth. From mild physical consequences, a little bruise here, to the ultimate death, infection, reproductive complications, infertility, handicap, visual.
Definitely become frustrated, they will definitely become depressed that they might not want to see a man in their life, and as such they wouldn't even marry. The long-standing effect is that the woman is bound to live a very sad life till death.
People have committed suicide or they've died or something. Sometimes it's as a result of gender violence.
Gender violence affects everybody. It affects the perpetrator, it affects the victim, it affects people around her, especially children who see their mother or sister battered, and they think that's the way you carry on with it. So eventually it affects the essence of society. But then there's again the denial that these things happen. And it's not only one or two crazy people who cause gender violence, but that is endemic to our society. That denial results in us not dealing with the roots of the problem.
The secret of the family outside for people to hear and to know. And the children, the reason why we don't do that, it is something which is a prestige to the family of the male and the female.
Or 10 cases, you have 8 of them answering in the affirmative. So the issue of gender violence is widespread.
Section 42G of our criminal code is a section that allows, simply put, a spouse to rape his partner, and the partner cannot have recourse to any remedy. And how a country of 20 million people who claim to be democratic, who claim to fight for freedom and justice, can have such a provision in its laws leaves a lot to the imagination.
A young relative who had been defiled by somebody, I don't know how the person relates, the perpetrator relates to them. Typically, the person has pleaded not guilty in court. It's a policeman who is prosecuting on behalf of the Attorney General. Is the policeman himself sufficiently sensitized or conscientized to appreciate that this is not just, excuse me to say, a child who was falling down and suffered a cut? The issue goes deeper than this. Then the adjudicator tells them, go and settle the matter. I said, go and settle on what basis? It's a case of defilement. A 9-year-old child, they're telling them to go and settle. How much compensation can the person who is alleged to have committed the deed pay to them to compensate for the trauma that she suffered? Will she be given sufficient money to place her in a good position in future? What do we know? What kind of medical damage has been done? Can she give birth? Because these are real problems.
I think there is a greater awareness in the society that gender-based violence is an aberration, that it is not something that should be condoned, it is something that should be frowned upon, and it is something that should be punished, whether it happens within individuals' own private lives or within the public spaces.
I want to see my daughter coming back from the husband's place with a swollen eye. No, it is wrong. Similarly, I would not want to see my son coming back with a broken arm. Then I say, hey, what's happened? He said, my wife hit me yesterday with a pencil and her arm is broken. I don't want that one.
The women used to come and report violence against them, sometimes by their husbands, by their ex-husbands, by men who propose love to people, women, and their application have been turned down.
You realize that it's a song that is sung daily in this community. We understand men and women who have agreed to live together as husband and wife do fight, do actually pick up quarrels, and some of the time, or most of the time, we understand that it is the men who are actually beating up their wives.
I know a lot of men who have the typical male pride, the ego that goes with it, and I can vouch that the last thing they'll do is beat up their wives or women they're in relationships with. Is that the only way of expressing your ego? What? Beat somebody to pulp in 1 minute and the next minute you're like, I love you, honey.
Papa, na kwasere du anase brebidu na okwasa okosum nyame a wunyamesum no enwie peye.
There are some misunderstandings between most marriages.